Study Section 5. Introduction to Web Programming. Advanced HTML, links, images, tables, and forms. Introduction. In the previous study section, we discussed how to use HTML element to format a web page, difference between tags, elements, and attributes. In this study session, we will examine some advanced HTML elements and the role they play in building a good web application. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Explain the meaning of links. 2. Use images as links. 3. State the usefulness of image maps. 4. Explain the types of image format. 5. What client-side and server-side image maps are. Creating links with the A element. All hypertext links on the web take you from one part of the web to another. You have already seen links that take you from one page to another, and this section covers them in more depth. You will also meet links that take you to a specific part of a page, either a specific part of the same page or a specific part of a different page. Like all journeys, these have a starting point known as the source and a finishing point known as the destination, which are both called anchors. Each link that you see on a page that you can click is actually a source anchor, and each source anchor is created using the A element. Creating a source anchor with the href attribute. The source anchor is what most people think of when talking about links on the web, whether the link contains text or an image. It is something you can click and then expect to be taken somewhere else. As you have already seen, any text that forms part of the link that a user can click is contained between the opening A tag and closing /A tag, and the URL to which the user should be taken is specified as the value of the href attribute. Why not visit the href is equal to http://www.rocks.com/rockspress website /a to find out about some of our other books, whereas the following link on the home page of the fictional news sites would take you to the main theme page. Note how this link uses a relative URL. You can see more themes in the ahref is equal to entertainment/theme/index.html theme section /a. You need to specify a destination anchor only if you want to link to a specific part of a page. Creating a destination anchor using the name and ID attribute linking to a specific part of a page. If you have a long web page, you might want to link to a specific part of that page. You will usually want to do this when the page does not fit in the browser window and the user might otherwise have to scroll to find the relevant part of the page. The destination anchor allows the page anchor to mark specific points in the page that a source link can point to. Common examples of linking to a specific part of a page that you might have seen used on web pages include 1. Back to top links at the bottom of long pages. 2. A list of contents for a page that takes the user to the relevant section. 3. Links to footnotes or definitions. You create a destination anchor using the A element again, but when it acts as a destination anchor, it must carry an ID attribute, and if you are creating pages that might be viewed by very early browsers such as IE3 and Netscape 3, a name attribute as well, because the ID attribute was only introduced in HTML4. By way of an example, imagine that you have a long page with a main heading and several subheadings. The whole page does not fit on the screen at once, forcing the user to scroll, so you want to add links to each of the main headings at the start of the document. Before you can create links to each section of the page using the source anchors, you have to add the destination anchors. Here you can see the subheadings of the page. each containing an A element with the ID attribute whose value uniquely identifies that section. H1 linking and navigation slash H1. H2 AID is equal to URLs slash A slash H2. H2 AID is equal to source anchors slash A slash H2. H2 A ID is equal to destination anchors slash A slash H2. H2 A ID is equal to examples slash A slash H2. With destination anchors in place, it is now possible to add source anchors to link to these sections, like so. This page covers the following topics: UL, LI, href is equal to inverted comma, #URL, inverted comma closed, URLs slash A slash LI, href is equal to #source anchors slash A slash LI, href is equal to #destination anchors slash A slash LI, href is equal to #examples slash A slash LI slash UL slash P. The value of the href attribute in the source anchors is the value of the ID attribute preceded by a pound or #sign. If someone wanted to link to a specific part of this page from a different website, he or she would add the full URL for the page, followed by the pound or #sign, and then the value of the ID attribute, like so. http://www.example.com/html/links.html #source anchors. Advanced email links. You can make a link open up the user's default email editor and address an email to you or any other email address you give automatically. This is done like so. Hey, href is equal to mail to info@example.org /A. You can also specify some other parts of the message too, such as the subject, body, and people that it should be CC'd or BCC'd. To add a subject to an email, you follow the email address with a question mark to separate the extra values from the email address. Then you use the name value pairs to specify the additional properties of the mail you want to control. The name and the value are separated by an equal sign. For example, to set the subject to be inquiry, you would add the subject property, name, and what you wanted to be the subject, like so. href is equal to mail to info@example.org, subject is equal to inquiry. You can specify more than one property by separating the name value pairs with an ampersand. Here you can see that the subject and a CC address have been added in A. href is equal to mail to info@example.org, subject is equal to xhtml, and cc is equal to sales@example.org /A. The table that follows includes a full list of properties you can add. Property. Purpose. Subject. Adds a subject line to the email. You can add this to encourage the user to use a subject line that makes it easier to recognize where the mail has come from. Body. Adds a message into the body of the email, although you should be aware that users would be able to alter this message. CC sends a carbon copy of the email to the CC'd address. The value must be a valid email address. If you want to provide multiple addresses, you simply repeat the property, separating it from the previous one with an ampersand. BCC secretly sends a carbon copy of the mail to the BCCD address without any recipient seeing any other recipients. The value must be a valid email address. If you want to provide multiple addresses, you simply repeat the property separating it from the previous one with an ampersand. If you want to add a space between any of the words in the subject line, you should add %20 between the words instead of the space. If you want to take the body part of the message onto a new line, you should add %0 this, %0a, where 0 is a 0, not a capital 0. It is common practice to add only the email address in email links. If you want to add subject lines or message bodies, you are better off creating an email form. Images and objects. Images and graphics can really bring your site to life. However, it is important to choose the right format for your images and save them correctly, as this will help make your site faster and result in happier visitors. Two, vector graphics. Break the image into lines and shapes like a wireframe drawing and store the lines as coordinates. They then fill the spaces between the lines with color. Vector graphics are commonly used for line art, illustration, and animation. They often feature large areas of flat color as opposed to textures, shades of color, and photographic styles. In the early days, bitmaps were the main image format for the web, although more recently, some formats such as Flash and SVG are making use of vector graphics. Bitmap images. Most static images on the web are bitmapped images. The image is divided into a grid of pixels. If you look very closely at your computer screen, you may be able to make out the pixels that make up the screen. If you look at figure 5.1, you can see an example of a bitmap image with one section that has been modified so that you can see how pixels make up the image. The number of pixels in every square inch of the screen is known as the resolution of the image. Images on the web can show a maximum of 72 pixels per inch. Images used in print are usually higher resolution and are often supplied to printers at 300 dots per inch. Note how on screen we refer to pixels per inch, while in print we call them dots per inch. The more pixels or dots per inch an image contains, the larger the size of the file will be. As a result, any images that you use on the web, you save at a resolution of 72 dots per inch. If you save it any larger, this will create unnecessarily large files that will take longer to download. Bitmap graphics format. Browsers tend to support 3 common bitmap graphics formats, and most graphics programs will save images in this format. 1. GIF, Graphics Interchange Format, pronounced either GIF or GIF. 2. JPEG, Joint Photographic Expert Group Format, pronounced JPEG. 3. PNG, Portable Network Graphics, pronounced PNG or PNG. Keeping file sizes small. You will usually want to save the images for your site in the format that best compresses the image and therefore result in a smaller file size. This will not only make your pages quicker to load but can also save you on the charges made for hosting your site. Usually, one or another format will be the obvious choice for you. The rule of thumb is 1. Use JPEGs for photorealistic pictures with a lot of detail or subtle shade differences you want to preserve. Use GIFs for images with flat color rather than textured color. And hard edges such as diagrams, text, or logos. You can also consider using PNGs if you do not need the advanced features such as transparency, or if you know the majority of your visitors will be using more recently released browsers. Vector images. Illustration and animation software tend to use vector format to save images, and the most popular vector graphics format on the web is Flash. Vector format stores information in terms of coordinates between which lines are drawn, and then inside the lines a colored field can be specified. Because vector formats are based on the coordinates that mark points on lines, it is very easy for vector format to scale to different sizes simply by increasing or decreasing the gap between each point the coordinates are plotted against. Browsers and XHTML do not, by default, support any vector graphics format, although the main browsers now ship with the Flash player that is required to view Flash files. As a result, Flash is currently the most popular way of deploying vector graphics and animations on the web. While the Flash player is free for download and the browsers feature it, you should be aware that Adobe charges for the software to create Flash files, and that learning to use the software is an entirely new skill. To embed an object into a page, you need to specify 1. The location of the code used to display or play the object, sometimes referred to as the implementation of the object. 2. The actual data to be rendered, for example, a movie, an audio file, a program. 3. Any additional values the object needs at runtime. The first two are added using the object element, while additional values are provided in the param element, which can be a child of the object element. While the object element can contain a child param element, any other content of the object element should be displayed only if the browser cannot render the object. Object your browser does not appear to support the format used in this film clip. For more details, please look href is equal to /f/video.htm here /a/object. Using images as links. It is easy to turn an image into a link rather than putting text between the opening A tag and the closing /a tag. As you saw in the last chapter, you can place an image inside these tags. Images are often used to create graphical buttons or links to other pages. Ahref is equal to /index.html title is equal to click here to return to the home page. imgsrc is equal to images/banana.jpg. Width is equal to 130, height is equal to 130, alt is equal to banana, border is equal to 0 / angle bracket closed, angle bracket open /a angle bracket closed. Know the use of the deprecated border attribute. When you use an image inside an A element, the image will gain a border in IE for Windows. Image map. Image maps allow you to specify several links that correspond to different areas of one single image, so that when users click different parts of the image, they get taken to different pages. There are two types of image maps: server-side image maps, client-side image maps. The difference between the two lies in where the code that decides which link you should be taken to is executed. This hotspot should not be too small, otherwise users might have difficulty in selecting the correct area they want. If this happens, they will soon get frustrated and leave your site. Image maps can also be difficult for people with motor control difficulties to navigate. Thus, if for any reason you use image maps as the main method of navigation for your site, you should offer text links at the bottom of the page and indicate this in the alt text. Server-side image maps. With server-side images, the img element inside an A element carries a special ISMap attribute, which tells the browser to send the server XY coordinate representing where the user's mouse was when he or she clicked the image map. Then a script on the server is used to determine which page the user should be sent to based on the coordinate fed to it. For example, look at the following link where the img element carries the ISMap attribute with a value of ISMap. This is an attribute that did not require a value in HTML. However, in SHTML, all attributes must have a value, and therefore its own name is used as a value in XHTML to make the attribute valid. href is equal to /location /map .aspx img src is equal to /images /state .gif alt is equal to map of US state border is equal to 0, ISMap is equal to ISMap /a. Now, if the user clicks the image 50 pixels to the right of the top left corner of the image and 75 pixels down from the same corner, the browser will send this information with the URL like so: http://www.example.org/location/map.aspx 5075. You can see the coordinate appended at the end of the URL that is specified in the A element. Client-side image maps. Because server-side image maps rely on server technology, an alternative that worked on browsers was introduced and client-side image maps were born. Client-side image maps use code within the XHTML page to indicate which parts of the image should link to which images. Take 2 should link to which pages. Because the code that divides up the sections of the image is on the browser, it is possible for the browser to offer extra information to users either by showing them a URL in the status bar or as a tool tip when the mouse is hovered over the image. There are two methods of creating a client-side image map: using the map and area element inside an img element, and more recently using the map element inside the object element. The thing about a server-side image map is that there needs to be a script, map file, or application on the server that can process the coordinates and know which page the user should then be sent to. The implementation of image maps will vary depending on what kind of server you are running on. By now, you have understood that the names of elements in HTML tend to refer to the type of markup they contain. So you will hardly be surprised to know that you create a table in XHTML using the table element. Inside the table element, the table is written out row by row. A row is contained inside a tr element which stands for table row, and each cell is then written inside the row element using a td element which stands for table data. Figure 5.2, an example of a table. The following is an example of a very basic table. Table border is equal to 1 tr td row 1 column 1 slash td td row 1 column 2 slash td slash tr td row 2 column 1 slash td td row 2 column 2 slash td slash tr slash table. All tables will follow this basic structure, although there are additional elements and attributes that allow you to control the presentation of tables. If a row or column should contain a heading, a th element is used in place of the table data or td element. By default, most browsers render the content of a th element in bold text. Here you can see a slightly more complex example of a table which includes headings. Table border is equal to 1 tr th slash th outgoings $sign slash th receipts $sign slash th profit $sign slash th slash th quarter 1 January to March slash th td 11200.00 slash td 21800.00 slash td b 10,600.00 slash b slash td slash tr slash. The remaining table is shown as you study this session. Basic table elements and attributes. The table element. The table element is the containing element for all tables. It can carry the following attributes: 1. All of the universal attributes. 2. Basic event attributes for scripting. The table element can carry the following deprecated attributes. Even though they are deprecated, you will still see many of them in use today: align, Bgcolor, border, cell padding, cell spacing, direction, frame, rules, summary, width. The frame attribute, deprecated. The frame attribute is supposed to control the appearance of the outermost border of the whole table, referred to here as its frame, with greater control than the border attribute. If both the frame and border attribute are used, the frame attribute takes precedence. The syntax is frame is equal to frame type. The summary attribute. The summary attribute is supposed to provide a summary of the table's purpose and structure for non-visual browsers such as speech browsers or Braille browsers. The value of this attribute is not rendered in IE or Firefox, but you should include it in your pages for accessibility purposes. Summary. Table shows the operating profit for the last 4 quarters. The first column indicates the quarter, the second indicates outgoings, the third indicates receipt, and the fourth indicates profit. The width attribute, deprecated. The width attribute is used to specify the width of the table in pixels or as a percentage of the available space. When the table is not nested inside another element, the available space is the width of the screen. Otherwise, the available space is the width of the containing element. Width is equal to 500 or width is equal to 90%. The axis attribute. The axis attribute allows you to add conceptual categories to cells and therefore represent n-dimensional data. The value of this attribute would be a comma-separated list of names for each category the cell belonged to. Axis is equal to heavy, hot, valuable. Rather than having a visual formatting effect, this attribute allows you to preserve data which then may be used programmatically, such as querying for all cells belonging to a certain category. The Bgcolor Attribute deprecated. The Bgcolor Attribute sets the background color for the cell. The value of this attribute should be either a hex code or a color name. The Char Attribute. The Char Attribute specifies a character, the first instance of which should be used to horizontally align the content of a cell. See the full description in the Char Attribute subsection within the DTR element contains table rows section earlier in the chapter. The Char of Attribute. The Char of Attribute specifies the number of offset characters that can be displayed before the character specified has the value of the Char Attribute. The Colspan Attribute. The Colspan Attribute is used to specify how many columns of the table a cell will span across. The value of this Colspan Attribute is the number of columns the cell stretches across. The height attribute deprecated. The height attribute allows you to specify the height of a cell in pixels or as a percentage of the available space. Height is equal to 20 or height is equal to 10%. The null wrap attribute deprecated. The null 13 wrap attribute is used to stop text from wrapping onto a new line within a cell. You should use null wrap only when the text really would not make sense if it were allowed to wrap onto the next line. For example, a line of code that would not work if it were spread across two lines. In HTML, it was used without an attribute value, but that would not be allowed in transitional XHTML. Rather, you would take two. Rather, you would use the following: null wrap is equal to null wrap. The Rowspan Attribute. The Rowspan Attribute specifies the number of rows of the table a cell will span across, the value of the attribute being the number of rows the cell stretches across. The Scope Attribute. The Scope Attribute can be used to indicate which cells the current header provides a label or header information for. It can be used instead of the headers attribute in basic tables but does not have much support. Scope is equal to range. The TD and TH elements represent table cells. Every cell in a table will be represented by either a TD element for cells containing table data or a TH element for cells containing table headings. By default, the content of a TH element are usually displayed in a bold font horizontally aligned in the center of the cell. The content of a TD element, meanwhile, will usually be displayed left aligned and not in bold, unless otherwise indicated by CSS or another element. The TD and TH elements can both carry the same set of attributes, each of which applies just to that cell. Any effect these attributes have will override settings for the table as a whole or any containing element such as row. In addition to the universal attribute and the basic event attribute, the TD and TH element can also carry the following attributes: ABBR, align axis, Bgcolor, char, Colspan, headers, height, nowrap, rowspan, scope, v-align, width. Forms. Any form that you create will live inside an element called form. Between the opening form and closing /form tags, you will find the form controls, the text input boxes, drop-down boxes, checkboxes, a submit button, and so on. A form element can also contain other XHTML markup just like the rest of a page. Once users have entered information into a form, they usually have to click what is known as a submit button. Although the actual text on the button may say something different, such as search, send, or proceed, and often pressing the return key on the keyboard has the same effect as clicking this button. This indicates that the user has filled out the form, and this usually sends the form data to a web server. Once the data that you have entered arrives at the server, a script or other program usually processes. Take 2. Usually processes the data and sends a new web page back to you. The return page will usually respond to a request you have made or acknowledge an action you have taken. The form element carries an attribute called action whose value is the URL of the page on the web server that handles such request. The method attribute meanwhile indicates which HTTP method will be used in getting the form data to the server. The form element can also contain other markup such as paragraphs, headings, and so on. A form element must not, however, contain another form element. Providing you keep your form elements separate from each other and no one form element contains another form element, you take 2. Your page may contain as many forms as you like. For example, you might have a login form, a search form, and a form to subscribe to a newsletter all on the same page. If you do have more than one form on a page, users will be able to send the data from only one form at a time to the server. Every form element should carry at least 2 attributes: action, method. The method attribute. Form data can be sent to the server in 2 ways, each corresponding to an HTTP method. The get method, which sends data as part of the URL. When you send form data to the server using the HTTP get method, the form data is appended. Take 2. The form data is appended to the URL specified in the action attribute of the form element. The form data is separated from the URL using a question mark. Following the question mark, you get the name value pairs for each form control. Each name value pair is separated by an ampersand. For example, take the following login form which you saw when the password form control was introduced. Form action is equal to http://www.example.com/login.axpx. Method is equal to get username. Input type is equal to text name is equal to text username. Value is equal to size is equal to 20. Max length 20. br/password. Input type is equal to password name is equal to password. Value is equal to size is equal to 20. Maximum length is equal to 20. Input type is equal to submit/form. When you click the submit button, your username and password are appended to the URL. http://www.example.com/login.aspx, like so in what is known as a query string. http://www.example.com/login.aspx, text username is equal to Bob and password is equal to let me in. Note that when a browser requests a URL with any spaces or unsafe characters such as slash is equal to ampersand and plus, which have special meanings in URL, they are replaced with a hex code to represent that character. This is done automatically by the browser and is known as URL encoding. When the data reaches the server will usually take two. The server will usually unencode the special characters automatically. One of the great advantages of passing form data in a URL is that it can be bookmarked. If you look at searches performed on major search engines such as Google, they tend to use the get method so that the page can be bookmarked. The get method, however, has some disadvantages. Indeed, when sending sensitive data such as the password shown here or credit card details, you should not use the get method because the sensitive data becomes part of the URL and is in full view to everyone and could be bookmarked. Three, you have large amounts of data because other browsers do not allow URLs to exceed more than 1024 characters, although the recent versions of the main browsers do not have limits. 4. Your form contains a file upload control because uploaded files cannot be passed in the URL. 5. Your users might enter non-ASCII characters such as Hebrew or Cyrillic characters. In these circumstances, you should use the HTTP post method. The post method, which hides data in the HTTP headers. When you send data from a form to the server using the HTTP post method, the form data is sent transparently in what is known as the HTTP headers. While you do not see these headers, they are sent in clear text and cannot be relied upon to be secured unless you are sending data under a secure socket layer or SSL. If the login form you just saw was sent using the post method, it could look something like this in the HTTP headers. User agent MSIE 5.5 content type application/x www-form-unencoded content-length :35 other headers go here text username is equal to Bob and password is equal to let me in. Note that the last line is the form data and that is in exactly the same format as the data after the question mark in the get method. It would also be URL encoded if it contains spaces or any characters reserved for use in URLs. Tick 2. Reserved for use in URLs. There is nothing to stop you using the post method to send form data to a page that also contains a query string. For example, you might have one page to handle users that want to subscribe to or unsubscribe from a newsletter, and you might choose to indicate whether a user wanted to subscribe or unsubscribe in the query string. Meanwhile, you might want to send the actual contact details in a form that uses the post method because you are updating a data source. Form controls. This section covers the different types of form controls that you can use to collect data from a visitor to your site. There are text input controls, buttons, checkboxes, and radio buttons, select boxes, sometimes referred to as drop-down menus, and list boxes, file select boxes, hidden controls. Text input. You undoubtedly have come across text input boxes on many web pages. Possibly the most famous text input box is the one right in the middle of the Google home page that allows you to enter what you are searching for. On a printed form, the equivalent of a text input is a box or line that you are allowed to write a response in or on. There are actually three types of text input used on forms. 1. Single line text input controls, used for items that require only one line of user input, such as search boxes or email addresses. They are created using the input element. 2. Password input controls. These are just like the single line text input, except they mask the characters a user enters so that the characters cannot be used. Take 2. So that the characters cannot be seen on the screen. They tend to either show an asterisk or a dot instead of each character the user types, so that someone cannot simply look at the screen to see what a user types in. Buttons. Buttons are most commonly used to submit a form, although they are sometimes used to clear or reset a form and even to trigger client-side scripts. For example, on a basic loan calculator form within the page, a button might be used to trigger the script that calculates repayment without sending the data to the server. You can create a button in three ways. 1. Using an input element with a type attribute whose value is submit, reset, or button. 2. Using an input element with a type attribute whose value is image. 3. Using a button element. With each different method, the button will appear slightly different. Checkboxes. Checkboxes are just like the little boxes that you have to check on paper forms. As with light switches, they can be either on or off. When they are checked, they are on. The user can simply toggle between on and off positions by clicking the checkbox. Checkboxes can appear individually, with each having its own name, or they can appear as a group of checkboxes that share a control name and allow users to select several values for the same property. Checkboxes are ideal for controls when you need to allow a user to 1. Provide a simple yes or no response with one control, such as accepting terms and conditions or subscribing to an email list. 2. Select several items from a list of possible options, such as when you want a user to indicate all of the skills they have from a given list. A checkbox is created using the input element whose type attribute has a value of checkbox. Therefore, radio buttons are ideal if you want to provide users with a number of options from which they can pick only one. In such situations, an alternative is to use a drop-down select box that allows users to select only one option from several. Your decision between whether to use a select box or a group of radio buttons depends on three things. 1. User expectations. If your form models a paper form where users would be presented with several checkboxes from which they can pick only one, then you should use a group of radio buttons. 2. Seeing all the options. If users would benefit from having all the options in front of them before they pick one, you should use a group of radio buttons. 3. Space. If you are concerned about space, a drop-down select box will take up far less space than a set of radio buttons. Select boxes. A drop-down select box allows users to select one item from a drop-down menu. Drop-down select boxes can take up far less space than a group of radio buttons. Drop-down select boxes can take two. Drop-down select boxes can also provide an alternative to single-line text input controls where you want to limit the options that a user can enter. For example, you can use a select box to allow users to indicate which country or state they live in. The advantage being that all users from Nigeria would have the same value rather than potentially having people write Nigeria, NG, or Niger and then having to deal with different answers for the same country. A drop-down select box is contained by a select element, while each individual option within that list is contained within an option element. Four, images and graphics can really bring your site to life. 5. Graphics are created for computers in two main ways: bitmapped graphics, vector graphics. 6. Image maps allow you to specify several links that correspond to different areas of one single image so that when users click different parts of the image, they get taken to different pages. 7. There are two types of image maps: server-side image maps, client-side image maps. 8. There are two methods of creating a client-side image map: using the map and area elements inside an IMG element, and more recently, using the map element inside the object element. 9. The thing about a server-side image map is that there needs to be a script, map file, or application on the server that can process the coordinates and know which page the user should then be sent to. 10. Tables are commonly used to display all manner of data. Each rectangle is known as a cell. A row is made up of a set of cells on the same line from left to right, while a column is made up of a line of cells going from top to bottom. 11. Every form element should carry at least two attributes. Action method. The action attribute indicates what happens to the data when the form is submitted. 12. Form data can be sent to the server in two ways, each corresponding to an HTTP method: the GET method, which sends data as part of the URL and the must take two, and the POST method, which hides data in the HTTP headers. 13. There are different types of form controls that you can use to collect data from a visitor to your site. They are text input controls, buttons, checkboxes, and radio buttons, select boxes, sometimes referred to as drop-down menus, and list boxes, file select boxes, hidden controls. This is the end of study section 5. Thanks for listening.